Hey there everyone, this is Samuel Johnson and welcome back to the Xiaolin Perspectives. And today we're going to be discussing episode 3 of Xiaolin Showdown, Tangled Web. And this episode actually begins with a showdown already ongoing. Basically what's going on is that Kimiko and Jack Spicer are competing to retrieve a Shengong Wu called the Monkey Staff. A staff that's kind of modeled after a monkey that's supposed to give whoever wields it the balance, dexterity, and strength of a monkey. And as such, the showdown is literally just to climb a mountain and see whoever gets it first. And with Kimiko armed with a Fist of Tebigong, while Jack is armed with a new Shengong Wu that, like the third arm sash from last episode, he found off screen. In this case, a pair of boots called the Jet Butsu, which give whoever wields them the ability to defy gravity, walk on walls, fly, that sort of thing. Unfortunately for Kimiko, the Jet Butsu are kind of favoring making the showdown work more towards Jack's favor because, well, for one thing, he can just walk up the mountain as if he was going out for a stroll. And while Kimiko has to struggle just to stay afloat. And while she can use the Fist of Tebigong to shake the mountain, again, because of the Jet Butsu, well, it doesn't really affect Jack at all, because it allows him to defy all laws of gravity. So basically all this turbulence, all this shaking up of everything, it's like nothing. He's just basically he can just brush it off and ignore it. Whereas Kimiko, well, she has to deal with the consequences of it, because with her punching the mountain, it causes rocks to fall and it causes her to lose her grip until eventually she just falls off the mountain, allowing Jack to net an easy win and get the monkey staff. And as we've established, since that was the name of the game for the showdown, that means he not only gets that Shengong Wu, but he also gets the Fist of Tebigong as per the rules of the wager. So yeah, this is the first Xiaolin showdown the monks actually lose to the bad guys. And so Jack walks away with a monkey staff, Fist of Tebigong, and Jet Butsu. Although it's here we also learn a little side effect of the monkey staff, as apparently while it does allow whoever wields it all the dexterity and balance of a monkey, we also learn that apparently the longer one holds onto it, the more monkey-like they become, which is actually what Wuya describes it as. But either way, yeah, Shaolin monks lost this fight. From there, the episode cuts ahead to later as we see the Shaolin monks in Scotland, specifically Loch Ness, as they're looking for another Shengong Wu, with Kimiko still a little salty that she lost the showdown, and, well, the other monks aren't exactly making the loss easier for her to take. As it turns out, all of them have some ribbing they're going to give her. In the case of Omi, ever since meeting Kimiko, he's decided to do more research on girls, which in this case is looking through an 11th century book which is supposed to be about females. And of course, it's sexist to hell and back, talking about how women have no upper body strength, how their place is in the kitchen, and so on and so forth. And so literally every bit of female trivia that Omi spouts just gets Kimiko madder and madder. In the case of Raimundo, he's just giving Kimiko shit. Not because she's a girl, but because it's Raimundo and he gives everybody shit, and he just likes seeing her squirm. Whereas in the case of Clay, while he does join in the ribbing, he states that the reason why he thinks that Kimiko lost wasn't because she was incompetent or competent or because she's a girl. It's because she has a fiery temper, which that also gets Kimiko mad, which kind of helps prove his point. But either way, this argument gets put on hold as immediately Dojo lets them know that he's found the Shengong Wu that they're hunting. And it's also in this episode where I should mention that we see that Dojo can shapeshift into other things beyond a giant dragon, as he has quite literally taken the form of the boat they're riding around Loch Ness on. And we also learn that he's apparently related to the Loch Ness Monster. Go figure. But either way, he managed to find exactly where in Loch Ness the Shengong Wu they're looking for is, which is quite literally just right below them. And so, Kimiko, wanting to prove herself, dives into the water and grabs the Shengong Wu, which in this case is a comb called the Tangled Web Comb. Which, if you can tell by the name, it has the ability to shoot webbing out of it that can immediately tie up and incapacitate someone. As such, since Jack and Wuya aren't here, this allows the Xiaolin warriors to at least make up the difference for the Shengong Wu they lost, and so they return to the temple, and Kimiko, still wanting to prove herself, immediately tries using the Tangle Webcomb to web up the training dummy. Unfortunately, while the Tangle Webcomb does shoot out all of its weird strands or whatever at the dummy, it actually misses the dummy and then flies right back around and ties up Kimiko. And while she's incapacitated, the other monks, just to be assholes, decide to go root through her junk. Admittedly, it's Raimundo that suggests it, but Clay and Omi go along with it, so, and as such, Kimiko's just kind of stuck there as she's struggling to get out of it. Thankfully, Master Feng shows up and is able to get her out out of the strands, but he openly admits to Kimiko that the Tangle Web Comb is a very difficult Shengongu to master, because in order to utilize it, one must achieve absolute focus. And, well, Kimiko ain't exactly someone that can do that, considering how hot her temper tends to go. And as such, while Kimiko says that she can be focused and all that, Master Feng decides to test her, as he brings her back to the temple and challenges her to pour tea, which sounds easy. The only problem is, the teapot's fucking huge and requires a lot of focus just to be able to hold. As such, Master Feng says that only someone with absolute focus can use said teapot and without spilling a drop. And at first, Kimiko does seem to be able to do it. Then the guys come in after having rummaged through her stuff, and she starts getting angry again. And while she tries to remain focused, thanks to with Master Feng trying to push her in the right direction, eventually she does end up spilling a little bit, before eventually she loses her grip altogether, as Omi continues spouting sexist nonsense, before she just drops the pot and shatters it. So yeah, it's clear that she's still got some anger issues. Though admittedly in this case, I think her anger is justified because they started going through her shit. Wouldn't you be a little upset if you were her? Either way, cutting back to the bad guys, we see that Jack has more and more become like a monkey. And while Wuya is telling Jack to just drop the monkey staff, he's just having fun with it. Although, as he's messing around with it, we end up hearing some commotion in his upstairs from his lab, as apparently his parents are hosting a party upstairs. So Jack just has to deal with it. However, as Jack's complaining and yelling at them to turn the music down, someone enters his lab, a girl who, I don't remember her real name. I think they reveal it in another episode, but for now, she's just nameless party guest. And basically, she goes into Jack's lab because she thinks the party upstairs is boring and wants to go somewhere exciting. And wouldn't you know it, Jack's basement does look like an evil lair, so it looks a lot more interesting than up here. And this girl immediately seems to take a liking to all this evil shit that's going on down here. Although when she does actually call Jack by name, because apparently people upstairs were talking about him, Jack is excited to learn what it is, and he gets upset when they call him a weirdo, causing Jack to further turn more into a monkey as he even knocks stuff off of his lab table. As such, eventually he just tells this girl to get lost because he's sick of seeing her face, and so the girl angrily does go up, though she calls Jack a freak. After Wuya shoots an insult at Jack, saying if only you get rid of the Xiaolin monks that easy, she ends up reacting as another Shengongu reveals itself. In this case, a pair of claws called, the golden tiger claws, which are basically a pair of claws that allow whoever wields them to transport to any place in the world, which is a very versatile Shengongu to have, because with that Shengongu, you could, like I said, it could go anywhere, including the vault where the Xiaolin warriors keep their Shengongu. So obviously, bad guys want it. Either way, as such, Jack and Wuya race off to get the tiger claws, with the Xiaolin monks obviously going after it, because Dojo probably sensed the same thing, and they end up going to Japan, specifically the Emperor's Palace, which is where the tiger claws is supposed to be. Unfortunately, the good guys can't exactly get into the palace legitimately, because it's the Emperor's Palace. No one's going to let them in. Thankfully, Kimiko does have some connections to get her in, as apparently her dad is high on the totem pole somewhere in Japan, and so after she calls him, he's able to net them invites into the palace, but it comes with a catch. Namely, they all have to wear formal robes, which of course are kimonos and so forth. Well, except Omi, who just wears slightly nicer versions of his regular robes. And again, we get some more sexist drivel as he thinks that now Kimiko officially looks like a girl, which again gets her angry. But either way, it's enough to get the Xiaolin monks into the Emperor's Palace, but they're still having trouble finding the golden tiger claws, with Dojo saying that wherever the tiger claws are, they're more down than where they are right now. And sure enough, Kimiko managed to find a trap door, which once they open it up, leads to a pair of stairs that go underground. And well, the Xiaolin monks are a little less eager to go down there because it's a dark tunnel and they can hear moaning coming from within. However, the Shengongu's down there. They have to deal with it, and so they all go down there. And sure enough, they find themselves in large caverns. And well, they soon find the source of the moaning. There, I said it. It's Jack Spicer, who apparently is within banana withdrawal, and his stomach is just churning. However, as the Shaolin warriors see him and end up making noise, Jack sees Jack notices them, and so he sticks some jackpots on them while he gets some ginger ale. And as such, the Xiaolin warriors are able to deal with Jack's robots, but it at least gives them enough of a distraction so that Jack can get his stomach back in order and then rush to grab the tiger claws, which are right there in the center of the cavern. However, Kimiko immediately jumps up to try and grab the tiger claws before Jack, and of course, they both grab it at the same time, so Xiaolin showdown time. In this case, Jack challenges Kimiko to a race. There are stone bridges. There are stone bridges in the cavern, and basically, whoever can get to the end of the stone bridges first and claim the tiger claws will win the showdown. And so Kimiko accepts the challenge, with her wagering the Tangled web comb, while Jack wagers the monkey staff. And so Xiaolin showdown time. And of course, this is still the most awesome part of the episode because immediately the whole cavern turns. Let me put it this way. It starts looking like literal hell. As in first it was dark, but now it seems to light up with red lights. There are various signs now floating everywhere. There are more pillars start popping up from above and below. You see what looks like this dark, fiery landscape beneath the bridges as they start crumbling too. And of course, as we later learn, the track that has sporadic earthquakes, which causes the bridges to collapse even more. So yeah, it's definitely a lot more hellish. But either way, showdown time. And of course, Jack immediately gets into the lead because he still has the monkey staff and he still has the dexterity of a monkey. While Kimiko sadly has to keep her balance because it's a very narrow bridge and one wrong move will cause her to fall off. As such, Jack gets more and more ahead of her, and while he does, of course, take time to mock her, Kimiko decides to try and turn the tables on him as she brings out the Tangled web comb and tries to wrap him up. But again, because she's getting hot-headed, the strands of the comb end up not even hitting Jack before just flying back around and tying her up in a very, I'm just going to say right now, it looks a little suggestive. Either way, it incapacitates Kimiko, while Jack just laughs his ass off at her before running for the tiger claws. And while Kimiko does furiously try getting out of the trap, she ends up remembering Master Feng's words about focus, and so she tries calming the storm of her mind, as he called it. And it allows her more stable control of the comb. And she's able to use the comb to call these strands back in. And so just as Jack is about to reach the tangle web, or about to reach the tiger claws, well, Kimiko manages to use the comb to rip the monkey staff right out of Jack's hands, which in turn transforms him back to normal. And apparently the process of turning human again after being a monkey is a very painful one, because Jax actually lets out groans in pain. Either way, though, he thinks, whatever, you got the staff, I'm still gonna win the claws. But, of course, that's when another earthquake hits and the claws are knocked right off of their perch. Thankfully, Kimiko is able to expertly use the combination of the monkey staff and the comb to swing around and manages to grab the claws just as Jack makes a dive for them. And so, as a result, she wins the showdown, winning the claws, the staff, and she gets to keep the comb. As such, once she meets up with the other monks, they congratulate her for a win. And what's even better is that throughout the episode, Raimundo apparently had a bet going about when Kimiko would achieve her focus. And basically every time Kimiko was starting to lose her temper, he would have the bet doubled, as basically whoever lost the bet would have to do the chores of the winner for 1 week. And since they kept doubling it, 1 week turned into 2 weeks, and 2 weeks turned into 4 weeks. And it turns out Raimundo bet on Kimiko mastering her focus very soon, and so that means he wins the bet, and so Omi and Raimundo have to do his chores for 4 weeks. But either way, they congratulate Kimiko for the win. Omi says that he understands her. That he sees her strength and her guile, and that he now fully understands women, though Kimiko just tells him that he's stepping in the right direction. Although the win is also slightly tainted when Raimundo and Clay laugh at her and call her a monkey butt because she's still holding on to the monkey staff, so she ends up sprouting a tail. So yeah, that's nice. But either way, the episode actually does end as we cut back to Jack in his lab as Wuya keeps chastising him for losing yet another Xiaolin showdown, which Jack just kind of brushes off because apparently he had bananas on the brain. But again, I'm still gonna at least give him some credit because he won the last showdown, and they still got 2 more Shengang Wu than they did before, so I would still say take victories where you can. But as Wuya chastises Jack, she begins immediately wondering if there are other humans out there that she can take advantage of. before the girl before the girl who came down before arrives again. Only now she's dressed in much more different attire. She's now wearing a black jumpsuit with a belt and has more cat features, as at the end of her gloves are claws. The hood for her jumpsuit has cat ears. She has makeup on her face that looks like whiskers, and she now has fangs. Basically, yeah, she's a supervillain, and she calls herself Cat Nappe, and she immediately demonstrates her strength as a villain as Jack sticks more of his bots on her, and she just immediately wipes the floor with them, and which impresses Wuya to no end. And so the episode officially ends when she goes up to Cat Nappe and says, "Have you ever heard of these things called Shengong Wu?" And thus, that's where the episode ends. So, okay, my thoughts on this episode. Honestly, it's again a pretty good one. It's again just like with the last episode, having to further establish the characters from what was started in episode 1. This episode does a good job at expanding more on Kimiko's character. We have, in this case, she's actually getting some much needed development. While we did get a character archetype for her in episode 1, well, Like a Rock didn't really do anything to expand on her character that we hadn't already seen before, that she can be patient but has a temper. Well, this episode actually does expand more on her as a character. In this case, we see that her temper is a lot more obtrusive than we were led to believe. As in this case, we see that apparently it's also linked to her pride, and yeah, she's apparently a prideful person when it comes down to things. In this case, when she lost the initial Xiaolin showdown with Jack, we see that she's still mulling over it. And likewise, when the other Xiaolin monks start ribbing at her and getting on her case about it, she gets angrier and angrier. And as a result, the more angry she gets, the more she keeps trying to prove herself, which in turn causes her to continue fumbling, which causes her more ridicule, which in turn causes her to want to keep fighting harder, which is basically just causes an endless cycle. And that's the challenge that she has to overcome throughout the episode, as she has to basically put her pride and her anger behind her so she can just focus on the task, which again, I think is a good lesson for kids, because when it comes down to it, people are prideful. People tend to like to make themselves look good, myself included. And as a result, we always tend to try and show people our best selves. And when something happens that shows our incompetence or things that we fail in, naturally we start to get defensive. Even I've been guilty of doing this. And as a result, the more we try and disprove the image of ourselves that looks incompetent, the more we kind of keep making it look true. And then that's kind of what we see here with Kimiko. As throughout the episode, she's constantly trying to prove to everyone, no, I'm capable, I'm competent, I can do this, I can be focused, I can take whatever you throw at me. But the more she keeps trying to prove herself, the angrier she gets when she fails. Case in point, when she gets the Tangled webcomb, she immediately tries showing it off to everyone because, well, she lost a showdown before, so she wants to still showcase that she's competent in this. But then likewise, when she fails to use a Tangled webcomb and Master Feng tells her that in order to properly utilize this Shengong Wu, it requires absolute focus, she just starts kind of making excuses, claiming that I was focused, but then they started doing something, and so Master Feng essentially just throws her arguments back in her face. He says, "Oh, okay, if you are focused, then I have a task for you." And thus, that's when he set up the test with the giant teapot, and that test did show that she was capable of it. But the problem is, when you have absolute focus, that means you gotta drown everything out. And the thing is, while I will not defend Omi, Clay, or Raimundo for going through Kimiko's things, because, again, if I'd be pissed too if that were me, I don't want people touching my stuff. At the same time, these things do happen in life. And let's be honest here, it's hard to ignore things like that. It's hard to just pretend that all of these bad things around us are just not there. They do get to us, and it's natural for us to react to them. But when we need to set ourselves to a task, our emotions and feelings towards these obstructions can have a negative impact on us. Because our focus can be divided in various ways, it means we aren't as focused on the task we're on, and add on the added anger that one can feel when dealing with these negativities, it can also lead to further distraction, and it can also lead to further distraction and cause us to slip up, because because ultimately, rather than staying calm and collected and allowing us to start thinking things through, our anger clouds our judgment, and basically it's like trying to take a hammer to a piece of paper. Before, you can just calmly try and rip the paper up and just break it up bit by bit. Whereas with the anger, we just want to take the hammer and smash the damn thing as hard as possible. And that's what happens when anger gets thrown into the mix. And throughout the episode, we see this affecting Kimiko, as she's not only distracted by exterior forces, but by her own emotions. And as a result, she's constantly getting in her own way. By shutting all these annoyances out, it allows her to start focusing more and more on the task at hand. And when she does gain that absolute focus, she's a master of it. She utilizes the Tangled web comb perfectly to win the showdown against Jack, steal his Shengang Wu, and then even use that in conjunction with the comb to outmaneuver him and get the golden tiger claws. It's smart thinking, and actually does showcase again the value of being focused. Not just because I'm not saying that being focused will allow you to win a battle and save the day, but focus will allow you to find a solution to it. Just as last episode showcased Clay displaying what a patient mindset could do, and if you actually take the time to stop and think about things, it can allow you to find probably a simple solution to a complicated problem. In this case, it shows us that sometimes, if you try and just focus on a problem and try to remain calm, it'll allow you to more easily reach your goal without things constantly weighing you down, both externally and internally. I like that. It's a good lesson, and I think it's executed well, while also giving Kimiko some more character development, as we now see more of how her temperament is like, how she deals with things, and in a way, how a part of her character is her pride, as she constantly wants to keep trying to prove herself when she fails, and again, that just adds more fuel to the fire as she's having trouble focusing. I dig that. It's nice. Plus, again, it further starts establishing more character dynamics. In this case, we see more of Omi trying to acclimate to the outside world as he starts reading up on women. And of course, the reading is outdated because, again, it's an 11th century book saying that women are better suited to be in the kitchen. I think Omi needs some help. Point is, it's also meant on. It's supposed to not come. Yeah. Point is, basically, the only reason that Omi's having these sexist views is because the source of information is a biased one, and basically what he needs is an unbiased source to help make him realize, hey, women aren't just those things that belong in the kitchen. They are actual people too, and guess what? They are just as competent as a man is. So maybe, just maybe, treat them with respect and stop talking about all these things they lack in. My point is this: it does well in further establishing things in that regard. And of course, I don't really see much development between Wuya and Jack, as nothing's really expanded on with them that we haven't seen in previous episodes. But I will also say this is one of the first episodes that kind of has an ongoing story that spreads across multiple episodes. Because here's the thing, the events of this episode lead directly into what happens in the next one. As this episode actually established Kat Nappe early on with her going down to Jack's lab in her civilian garb, and then likewise with her coming back in her full supervillain attire as she's volunteering her services to help Wuya and Jack, and then likewise once it's all done. And likewise, that actually does lead to what happens in the next episode, and even the Shengang Wu that we found in the end of this episode, namely the Golden Tiger Claws, does play a big part in the episode that comes after. So, in that regard, I do like that. It's nice building things up. Plus, I'll openly admit, the antics with Jack and the monkey staff were funny, which, if we're gonna go off with the Shengang Wu again, the Golden Tiger Claws are probably one of my favorite Shengang Wu, based on how we see them in later episodes. And yeah, Wuya was right to start to salivate over them, because not only do they look cool, but they're very useful. The ability to transport to any place in the world definitely has a way of cutting down on time. Monkey staff, an amusing thing, useful in its own regard, but more there for a joke than anything, though a later episode shows how dangerous it can be, but that's a later episode. And as for the Jet Butsu, Pretty cool. They're literally boots that allow you to defy gravity. I'd wear those. Point is, it's cool. I like it. And so on the whole, the episode does a good job at further at further building on the world that we've been showcased. We got a nice array of new Shengang Wu to look at. We got further character development with Kimiko and the rest of the monks. We have a good lesson here. Still fun action here, especially in the showdown. Some honestly fun antics. On the whole, today's episode I think was a pretty good one. So yeah, I think that's really all I have to say. I thank you for watching. I'm Samuel Johnson. I hope to see you next week as we see the plot threads that have been laid down in this episode be tied up in the next one. So till then, I hope you have a good day and take care.